Good morning, it's Tuesday, the 9th of June. You're watching Euronews, and this is Europe Today. Welcome to the program, I'm Stefan Grobe. Coming up, Iran has declared an end to its military operations against Israel after the two sides exchanged a wave of attacks that threatened to tilt the Middle East back into all-out war. The Israeli strikes came in apparent defiance of Donald Trump, who told Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu that he did not think Israel needed to respond further. How can the European Union remain a relevant global actor and strengthen its internal market to stay competitive? That's the theme of a high-level conference in Brussels today. Is there a risk for Europe to be squeezed between Trump's America and an ever more assertive China? We speak to former Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta. EU defense ministers convened in Nicosia for an informal summit dominated by the war in Ukraine and the thorny question of restricting Russia financially. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas announced that Hungary cleared the path to unblocking 6.6 billion euros held in the European Peace Facility, long frozen due to Budapest's objections. And France is to review 70,000 ongoing allegations of violence against minors after public fury over the death of an 11-year-old girl. The reason for the outrage? The admission by authorities they had not acted on previous child rape allegations against the main suspect. Lawmakers across the political spectrum now saying the case highlighted the justice system's failure to protect women and children from sexual violence. But first, the situation in the Middle East. Iran's armed forces announced the end of military operations against Israel, but warned of a more crushing response if it resumes attacks on Lebanon or its territory. Tit-for-tat strikes had followed Israeli attacks on Iran, with explosions reported in several Iranian cities as tensions escalated after Israel struck the southern suburbs of Lebanon's capital. For more on this, let's head over to Doha, where our correspondent Laila Humaira has the latest for us. Good morning, Laila. So help us decipher the development in the last 24 hours. How serious is the announced end of military operations?
Good morning, Stefan. Yes, well, things are still very tense here in the last 24 to 48 hours over the weekend. As you mentioned, Iran and Israel exchanging direct attacks between the two. The first time this has happened since the April ceasefire. And yes, Iran has announced it will halt the aggression. Israel also announcing it will halt the aggression if the other side stops these attacks. Now, the halt in the aggressions came after international pressure and, of course, pressure from the U.S. President Donald Trump as well. Now, while the peace negotiation, the talks seems to be at a standstill, a stalemate, yesterday Donald Trump seemed to allude that there is a movement in some direction. On Truth Social, he posted, both sides, Israel and Iran, are looking to an immediate ceasefire. Final negotiations on peace are proceeding, subject to ignorance or stupidity getting in its way. Things should move quickly. Now, we know that in these peace negotiations, there have been a few sticking points, among them Iran's missile and nuclear program, Israel's continued military campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon, security guarantees in the region, but also the freedom of navigation and the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, Stefan.
Yes, you mentioned it. The Strait of Hormuz remains a flashpoint. What's the latest here?
Well, it is essentially open, but shipping traffic remains slow and is nowhere near the levels of pre-February 28. Now, in these latest round of escalations, it's also prompted Gulf countries to announce the rerouting of flight paths in order to resume or continue flight operations in a safe way. But still, we know that there are still maritime mines in the Strait of Hormuz. But also this morning, earlier this morning, we have U.S. media reporting that a U.S. Army Apache helicopter downed in the Strait of Hormuz. Crew members were rescued safely, but it shows that the tense situation that we're still in, and with that peace negotiation or the outcome of these peace talks still elusive, everyone, it seems, to be remaining on absolute alert here in the region.
All right, Laila Humaira there for us in Doha. Thank you very much for this update. And now to the war in Ukraine. The European Commission is expected to imminently present its 21st sanction package against Russia. From a Defense Council meeting in Cyprus, the EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas touted that 80 new listings will be added, aiming to bring the Kremlin to its knees. For more on this, I'm now joined by our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Stefan.
So, what's the timeline of this package and what's in it?
Yeah, so the chatter here in Brussels is that the EU's 21st sanctions package against Russia could be unveiled as early as today, but the official line that we're hearing from the Commission is sometime this week. Now, in terms of the contents, we haven't been given a sneak peek, but I spoke to the EU sanction envoy David O'Sullivan last week. He couldn't get in the weeds regarding what would be in the 21st sanctions package. However, he voiced scepticism regarding two key pillars. The first being the oil price cap, currently set at US $44.10 US per barrel. He didn't expect this to be revised down due to the oil price shocks that we just heard from our correspondent. He also voiced scepticism regarding the triggering of the full maritime service ban on Russia's shadow fleet. But the EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, did give us an update as to how the Commission and the bloc plans on cracking down on the Kremlin further. She made these comments from Cyprus on Monday.
For next week, Foreign Affairs Council, my services have proposed more than 80 new listings targeting Russia's military-industrial complex, human rights violators and propagandists. Brick by brick, we are collapsing the foundations of Russia's war economy.
And Angela, there's one hot topic here that seems to be a substance named alumina. What is it and why is Ireland under fire for producing it?
Yes, so alumina is a white or nearly colourless substance. It is the starting metal for the smelting of aluminium metal, a key ingredient for the production of weapons such as armoured vehicles, fighter jets, and more commonly drones. Now, Organish Alumina is a refinery in Ireland that has been connected to the production of various weapons commonly found on the battlefield in Ukraine used by Russia. The EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, will be touching down in Dublin today to speak with the Irish Prime Minister Micheál Martin to discuss how this starting metal did wind up in Ukraine. But the big question is whether this will be included in the 21st sanctions package. Currently, it's not looking likely, as you need unanimous support from the 27 EU heads of state. And with Dublin on the defensive, this is not looking likely.
All right, Angela Skujins, thank you very much for updating us on that one. And now to another struggle, the efforts by the European economy to stay afloat in a geopolitical landscape marked by growing competition among major economic blocs. In about an hour, the Jacques Delors Friends of Europe Foundation will launch its Single Market Summit 2026, attended by some big names like former Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta, president of the Delors Institute, who will also give the opening address. But before he does that, he's on Europe Today this morning. Welcome, Prime Minister, and thanks for making time for us.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
So, what are you going to tell the audience?
But we will try to say that it's an incredible opportunity, the opportunity to complete the single market, to strengthen the European economy, resilience, security, strategic autonomy in the main fields where the single market is not completed. Energy, connectivity, financial markets, and with this great opportunity to launch the 28 regime, the EU INC, the EU Inc., this idea of having corporate law valid everywhere in Europe for companies, for startups. We are launching this. You will see it. It's a campaign. It's not only discussing, reflecting, but also making people aware around Europe, and the fifth freedom, and the freedom to stay. All the different aspects that are fundamental today to make Europeans aware that we have an opportunity to be more united and to be more autonomous.
In 2024, you wrote a widely acclaimed report on the state of European competitiveness. What happened then? Have your recommendations been taken to heart?
There was an acceleration in the last 3 months. The year 25 was a year in which we were all shocked by the new Trump 2 era, the tariff wars and the rest. Then Greenland happened. I think Greenland was a big wake-up call for all European countries and leaders. And since then, so since February, 3 European Council meetings and the one, April 24, that launched the strategy One Europe, One Market, 42 measures with deadlines. That is the most important part. Deadlines, Q3 26 to Q2 27, deadlines for each of these 42 measures, with the possibility then, in 2 years' time, to complete the single market and to complete this resilience. It's a great message to all Europeans. Is the message to say we can be more united, and being more united, we can scale. And scale today is what is fundamental. We are too fragmented. Today we will launch with main speakers. We'll have the opportunity to have the general manager of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, the Prime Minister of Belgium. Belgium was at the beginning the one who launched the idea of a report on the single market with Spain and Sweden, the 3 presidencies. And I'm very happy to have today the Prime Minister of Belgium, Bart de Wever, who will be with us to conclude the event and to launch a campaign that starts here in Brussels, but we have the next date in autumn. We will be in Berlin, in Paris, in Stockholm, in Bucharest, in all the different countries.
I want to bring up another hot topic. Right now, the Chinese are eating our lunch, and we're kind of passing them the forks and knives. It seems that Europe has no leverage over China. We need their rare minerals and their markets. So what should be our China strategy?
But in reality, one of the 42 measures is the Industrial Accelerator Act. That is partially the first answer to this problem. We will discuss it today. The Industrial Accelerator Act has to be approved, and the discussion has to be the way in which we will approve it, the way in which this Accelerator Act, Industrial Accelerator Act, can protect European industry and can save our manufacturing. So there are tools. Now it's time to being able to land with these ideas. And as you said, China is one of the main issues. But in general, the message that we will send today is the following one. We don't want to be a colony of the US, and we don't want to be a colony of China. We want to be Europeans.
And a quick one. When you look at China's state-backed industrial policy and Trump's tariff-driven protectionism, are Europeans the last true believers in free trade, and are they paying a price for it?
Yes, we are, but also we are, I think, the point of reference for a large part of the world. There are not only China and the US in the world. There's a lot of countries and places in the world, they want to be in dialogue with us. And the fact that we had India, Indonesia, Australia, Mexico, and Mercosur as in the last 4 months agreements between Europe and this part of the world is for me a great message of power from the European Union and attractiveness from the European Union. We have to be a little bit more proud of what we are.
All right, Enrico Letta, president of the Jacques Delors Institute. Thank you so much, sir, for helping us understand everything that is at stake here. All right, let's go back to Ukraine for a moment and talk about the vicious diplomatic clash that, for once, does not involve Russia, but Poland. And it has nothing to do with weapons, borders, or NATO logistics. It's about sensitive memory. Jakub Janas tells a story about historical grievances and wartime legacies.
Politics is about symbols, and this time was no different. A recent military designation has sparked a major diplomatic crisis between Warsaw and Kyiv. President Volodymyr Zelensky named an elite special operations unit after UPA heroes to honor their modern battlefield performance. And in response, Polish President Karol Nawrocki announced intentions to strip Zelensky of Poland's highest state award, the Order of the White Eagle. This dispute exposes deeply conflicting national narratives. What exactly is going on here? For Poland, the UPA, so Ukrainian Insurgent Army, is responsible for a campaign of genocidal ethnic cleansing in the 1940s that resulted in the deaths of an estimated 100,000 Polish civilians in Volyn in Ukrainian or Wołyń in Polish, so a historic region with deep Polish and Ukrainian roots. This violence also systematically targeted Jewish survivors who had escaped the Holocaust. Conversely, for Ukraine, the UPA is remembered as a symbol of anti-Soviet resistance and a heroic struggle for independence. And as Ukraine defends itself against the full-scale Russian invasion, this legacy of resistance is viewed as a vital tool for public resilience. And Ukrainian officials emphasize that this designation was a grassroots request from the frontline soldiers with no anti-Polish intentions. However, Polish leaders maintain that the memory of the victims is entirely non-negotiable. The risks of this trust crisis are exceptionally high, with some in Warsaw even calling for blocking Ukraine's EU accession over the scandal. And public solidarity is also facing pressure, as this unresolved dispute risks breaking the bond between both nations. And addressing the tension, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk noted that both nations must prevent historical emotions from destroying their solidarity. A prolonged conflict, Tusk warned, ultimately only serves the strategic interests of Moscow. So as said, politics is about symbols, but this time it could be different. Because history shows that even the deepest historical wounds can be managed through active cooperation. A precedent clearly seen in the journey of Polish-German reconciliation. The Ukrainian Insurgent Army will always remain a deeply divisive symbol. Yet, the shared security of both nations today depends on managing this historical pain together, rather than allowing the past to shatter their alliance.
Jakub Janas there, thank you for your reporting. To France now, where the Justice Minister has ordered public prosecutors to review 70,000 allegations of violence against minors. A reaction to the public fury at the death of an 11-year-old schoolgirl that has exposed cracks in the country's judicial system. Across the country, thousands took to the streets to protest what President Macron has condemned as unacceptable lapses in the authorities' handling of the case. Let's bring in Dennis Locktier in Lyon, who has all the details. Good morning, Dennis.
Hello, Stefan.
So you were at the rally in Lyon last night. What are people demanding? Is it purely about justice for the poor girl, or is there a wider message?
Indeed, in Lyon and around the country, the message from the crowd is clear. It's not just about justice for Liana, but it's about a system that many here believe has failed all children. People I spoke to described Liana's murder as a symbol of a wider problem. Adults who are reported for sexual violence against minors are being allowed to stay free, and complaints are moving too slowly through the system. And children left without real protection until it's too late. So these rallies are demanding concrete changes. They demand that every complaint for abuse on a child is being treated as a priority with clear deadlines and no more delays. And suspected abusers must be automatically removed from all contact from these children while investigations are ongoing. And more resources need to be given to child protection services so they can follow up on reports properly.
So the government has admitted serious failures. Ministers have promised a lot. Is that enough for the people you spoke to?
Yes, ministers have said that they will review about 70,000 pending complaints involving children, and that will be done by 14th of July. The Justice Minister, Gérald Darmanin, has publicly acknowledged serious failures in the Liana's case, and he said that the institutions did not protect the child as they should have. But, of course, for many people at the rally yesterday, that is not enough yet. They want to see that review lead to faster action, especially on repeated reports.
Yeah. Dennis, that's all the time we have. What a troubling story, Dennis locked here in Lyon there. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us this morning on Europe Today. If you want to continue the conversation, contact our team at europetoday@euronews.com. In the meantime, stay with us for more news live here on Euronews. Take care and see you soon.